Alright, Wizard Dragon here. I hope this is recording. Let's see. Yep, it is. I am on an epic road trip today. Actually, it's my second day on this road trip. I'm heading right now from... I was in Billings, Montana last night, and I'm heading to Missoula, Montana today. And I am driving along, I guess it's I-90 West through the mountains on, I just kind of went by Yellowstone Park. I'm thinking maybe on the way back to this trip I might stop there. But I don't know, just was bored. Not really bored. I mean, this isn't boring. It's pretty cool actually compared to Kansas. There's a lot to fucking see on this trip. But I don't know, I spent the last couple of days by myself traveling, and I just start thinking, and then I torture myself in my mind. That's what I do nowadays for kicks, I guess. My past, it sits on me like a fucking blanket sometimes. I wish I could change it. I wish I could go back and fix things, but I can't. So I get sad. I think I regret things, and I'm just fucking human. But I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about my buddy Brandon, he's not my buddy anymore, but I'm still just sad about the whole way it ended. I wish I would have done things differently. I wish I wouldn't have let the money eat at me and realize that he was just trying his best. Yeah, he fucked up too, but so did I. It's a long story. Anyways, I met Brandon in 2017 at the Doll and Toy Super Show International. I got to become friends with him, and I got to know him before he opened up his toy store, the Gnarly Toybox. And I bought a boglin from him at that first toy show before everything went crazy with the boglins, and I didn't have a huge collection at that point because I just started getting into buying them again. Bought one from him for $20. Nowadays would be a great deal. But I don't know, the pandemic hit, and a lot of things happened. I sold him 2 collections. That's what fucked up my friendship with Brandon. Is I sold him 2 giant collections. I sold him my boglins. At that point I had over 10 pairs of the Halloween vintage boglins. It's on his Instagram. It was a crazy collection. I sold it to him for $8,000 cash in 2020 because I was dumb and I should have just not, I don't know. There was a lot of other factors into doing the deal. One of them was that I cared about Brandon a lot and his business. When the pandemic hit, he had just opened up his toy store the year before, and I worried that he wasn't going to make it because the brick and mortar shop had to close down. But he's a very much a hustler and an interesting guy in that he's like super optimistic, and he's got a good heart, and so I wanted to help him out. So this was even before that big deal I did with him. I loaded up my van with all my extra fucking toys from the toy shows I used to do, and I went out there and dropped them off. But I did this deal with him. He came out and he bought my boglins from me, which I sold for $8,000. And he probably sold those suckers. He auctioned them off he has a Facebook Live thing. He auctioned those things off. He probably made $20,000 on top of the $8,000 because it was during the peak of the pandemic when he auctioned all that shit, and all the collectibles were going crazy. Like, it was just nuts. Not just Pokemon and all that crap, but everything collectible was going crazy because people were getting that stimulus money and they were sitting at home locked in their house, so they just, and it was the perfect storm for his Facebook auction live because he was making boo-boo bucks. He was doing really good with the Facebook Live stuff. And so when he came out, this was during the pandemic. He came out, and I sold him all my boglins for $8,000, and then I sold him a separate deal because he had the money for the boglins. He had the cash for that, so that deal was fine. I mean, there's little things about it later on that started to eat at me because some of the stuff I sold him, he wasn't supposed to sell. It was stuff I made, and he said he was going to keep, and then he auctioned it off for profit. I mean, things that I hand carved and like just stuff that I didn't think he would sell. And I even told him, I was like, dude, I made this. It took me, 50 hours, and I fucking painted it. I replicated things that I couldn't buy because they were hard to find, so I made them out of clay and painted up little accessories, the boglins and stuff. But then we did another deal that same day when he came out. He brought a big van to take all, and I collected up a ton of my shit, like 6 scale figures, very expensive collection. He agreed to pay me, I think that deal was for 10 grand. Might have been 8. I think it was 8 actually. I think the total for both of them was 16 grand, and he was going to give me the other 8,000 within a couple months because he was going to take all my shit and auction it off like he did, and then stack it up, as he said, put away the money. And that was in January. And then he called me a couple weeks later and was like, hey, I'm losing my house. I got a lot of shit going on. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to get an RV and live in it and travel and buy toy collections to save some money until we can find another place. Can you give me some more time to pay it back? And I was like, sure. What are you thinking? Like summer, He's like, well, he never gave me an answer. So time went on, and yeah, he went and he went on vacation. He took an epic road trip to California. He bought a brand new, 6-figure RV. He bought a huge collection from this lady that used to work for Playmates. He went to Disneyland. He did all this shit that was like, okay, cool, I know you're living your life. And so, things got stressful. I wasn't working. I hadn't been working for a couple of years, and I moved to Kansas, and I couldn't get my license to tattoo there. It took me 2 weeks. Short side story. It took me 2 weeks to get my license in Nebraska. I tried to open a business this last summer in Nebraska, and I got my license in two different. I'm fully licensed in any province, place, section, county of Nebraska, and it took me less than a month to do all that. Whereas I've been in Kansas for 4 fucking years, and I'm never going to get a license there because it's a draconian, archaic piece of shit state that doesn't want new people and new industry there. They just want people, at least for tattoos. They only want you to work there if you've been trained there. And so they, I even try to, that's a different story. Let me focus here for a minute. So I was broke, and so I brought it up a few times. I'm like, hey man, can we, he owed me $8,000. And I went out there to help him pack up his shit to move out of his house after he made the deal. And that's when our relationship started going sour. It was still during the pandemic. He didn't tell his wife until like an hour before I was getting there that I was going to be there, so she was all wigged out when I got there. I didn't know how much stress he was under with the move because he didn't communicate it to me. And his wife, Stacy Bell, she's just, she's a young girl. That's all I can say about her. She's young. I got there, and this is my impression of Stacy. I liked her before I stayed with her at her house. There's a lot of people that you like, and then when you stay with them for like literally a day, the fucking mask slides off their face, and you get to see the real person they are. And when I got there, we sat down for dinner and ate. She's like, oh, I meditate every day. And she was just like projecting how fucking woke she was and how, balanced she was, and all that was bullshit. She's a nutter just like me. Nutter recognizes nutter, you know what I mean? Like, crazy fucking recognizes crazy. And I let it slip in the kitchen, and my wife went to the grocery store, and I forgot that it had been almost 2 weeks, but she flipped out, went upstairs, right before they were supposed to do an auction, which I was supposed to be part of. He said, he was going to include me in all the fun and games when I got there, and I was going to help him move, pack up all his shit. Well, they got a big fight because she was worried that I brought COVID there, and they were the only people I knew that took the COVID fucking thing as seriously as me and my wife. We locked the fuck down. We got our vaccines. For the first 3 months of the fucking pandemic, we Lysoled everything, came in the house. We didn't fucking leave the house. We didn't go anywhere. All our groceries were delivered at the door. We wore a mask for a year and a fucking half outdoors. We didn't go to a movie. We didn't do anything fun. We just stayed home. My wife worked from home remotely, and I watched CNN and watched the fucking, January 6th Black Lives Matter protests and all the fucking bullshit that went on. I didn't write a book like a lot of people. I just sat and worried. You know, I did do some paintings. I painted some epic paintings, but so she was all paranoid, and I get it. I was too. I was just trying to go out there to help him move. That's what. And I drove from Kansas to Colorado to help him move. And that night before the auction, she got all bitter towards me. She's like, I don't like your energy. Your energy's bothering me right now. You need to get away from me. I'm like, in my head, I was like, fuck you, bitch. You know, I came out here I drove 5.5 hours during a pandemic to come and help you and your husband pack up your entire warehouse of a fucking house. I mean, and Brandon had a ton of shit. Like, I'm a collector, but this guy makes me look like a joke when it comes to collecting. He collects everything. Everything. I'm gonna get shoes, hats, bongs, toys, you just name it, he collects it, and obsessively collects it. He hyperfixates like me on something until he has it all, and then he had buckets of shit. He had 2 storage facilities when I met him, when I was helping him pack up. A ridiculous amount of shit, which is, I thought it was cool. Like, I love collecting stuff. So I was just bummed at her attitude towards me. And when I got there, he was on a time schedule. I got there on like a Thursday. He was supposed to be out by Monday. So I was like, Jesus Christ. And he hadn't even started. He got some boxes. His wife had packed up some kids' games and shit. They hadn't done nothing. So I was starting to freak out because I'm like, God damn, man, we got a lot to do before Monday. I didn't know. Turns out later he didn't care that he had to be out by Monday because he spent an extra 3 days. But I was stressed because I was stressed for him. I get there that night. They have the auction, which is downstairs in his basement. I traveled fucking 5 hours. I helped him, with the auction, get ready. His wife already was throwing me shade. Your energy is just bothering me. I'm just like, God. And I went to go sleep in the guest room, and there was everything in there was just fucking packed to the brim. And yes, it still bugs me. This is like almost 2 years later, and it still fucking bugs me. Because it's like, man, if somebody comes to visit me, and they, travel 6 hours, I don't just, say, okay, make stuff at home, good luck, blah, blah, blah. I make sure that there's amenities for them to sleep at least. Even if I don't have an extra room, I make sure I got a pull-up, bed, and just make it comfortable. His guest room was full of shit. Like, he had been using it to store all his empty boxes and products he was going to auction. And his bathroom was a fucking nightmare. And I'm hyper Germanic. They were too, but not in their own home, just for outside people. I had to take off my shoes every time I came in, kind of bullshit. The bathroom was disgusting. It looked like one of the kids shit on the toilet, like literally. And the bedroom I was supposed to sleep in that night was like fucking just up to my neck in shit on the bed. So, the auction went on to like 10 o'clock that night. And after they went to bed, I had to clean out the whole guest room. And I cannot, like, brush my teeth, take a shower, unless the bathroom's clean. So I spent from, 11 o'clock to midnight basically getting the room suitable so I could unpack and go to sleep. They didn't care. It wasn't their concern. And I know this is partly Brandon's fault because he's not on purpose, but a self-centered kind of guy. Like, he's tunnel vision towards his goals and his fucking shit, and he's a big child. He's like a 13-year-old man child. Not that I ain't. I'm a lot of that too. I love just geeking out with toys and playing video games. I'm kind of a geek too in that way. So I was a little bummed about that, but whatever. I got over it. It wasn't until 2 days later, I'm still hoping to move, I busted my ass. I had to get something to fucking drink. Like, I was thirsty. His wife was cooking lunch or some shit in the kitchen. I went to the kitchen to get some lemonade out of the fridge. And she looked at me like I had raped her dog with a fork or some shit. Like, she gave me a look like I fucking did something unholy. And then, Brandon came and told me, she told me, she's like, when I'm cooking, I don't want you in the kitchen. And I was like, whatever, lady. Like, I am here to help you move. And you're not doing anything. You're not helping us do shit. Been 2 days, and all she did, the whole 2 days, him and Brandon and his wife basically did nothing for 2 days. I packed up a bunch of their shit, and I was starting to get frustrated because Brandon was goofing off, doing TikToks and riding tricycles and shit, making clown fucking videos. I'm packing up everything he owns, and his wife's on the phone giving advice to all her 20-year-old friends like she's some kind of therapist guru that, was given the secret on tap into her fucking unconscious mind, so she could just gift you with all the wokeness and knowledge and perfection that is her. That's all she did. The whole first day I was there was on the phone, just and the real thing is that they were, I didn't find this out till later, they were freaking out. They didn't know what the fuck they were gonna do. They ended up moving back in with her parents after all this shit hit the fan. But a long story short, that point of it is that I left a day early because she made me so uncomfortable. I was there to help him. I spent my own dime to help him move up I packed up a ton of shit, and his wife treated me like dirt. She jumped on me like I was some kind of kid when I went in the kitchen to get lemonade because I'd been busting my ass for him all day. And I could just feel that she hated me. Like, I don't know what the fuck I did to this lady except try to help her husband and her kids. I gave them buckets, literally vanfuls of toys at 1/3 the fucking value so they could auction off and make money off me. And she was very ungrateful. She said one thing, but her energy and her attitude and what she actually did another. So that hurt. I left a little bitter towards his wife, and I hold on to shit. I'm not gonna lie. I am somebody that holds resentments and holds grudges. So I got pissed, and I talked to him out there when I went out there. He's a heavy pot smoker. I'm not. I smoke a little bit, but not like him, man. So I was like, hey, do you think by the end of the year you can pay me back the money? Like, you think that you'll have it together by the end of the year? That gives you, and this was like January, February. It was early 2021, so it still was going on. The pandemic was still going on, and everybody's still freaking out. And because we did the deal in 2020, and then I helped him move in 2021 before he went on vacation. Wow, I'm going through the mountains here. I wonder if I can reverse this one. Look at this epic fucking shit here. It's got a little probably because the pressure and all the elevation and shit made my heart jump beat. But I don't want to draw on this too long. I've told on it so long. It just sucks because he didn't ever. He said he would, and then he said he wouldn't, and time went on. Summer came. Like I said, he went on this epic road trip, bought an RV, went to Disneyland, did all this shit. A couple months later, he came out to do a big deal in Kansas. He found this huge toy deal where he bought a bunch of McDonald's toys. I helped him with that. I got up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, took my 1990 ambulance van to meet him, and I can't even express to you how many times I bent over backwards for Brandon because I loved him and I really wanted to support his business. I just would do anything for the guy because he was my friend. I talked to him every day during the pandemic. Money, man. Don't ever do a deal for more than $40 with a friend that you love because it's gonna fuck it up. Is what I learned from this deal. And I talked to him. I communicated to him like that summer when he came out in person. I'm like, man, I need you to start paying down this debt because it's becoming an issue. It's been 6-7 months. You said you were gonna stack it up within a couple of months. What started bugging me is that I'd see him buying shit. He'd be bragging about how he bought a new grassroots hat or just stupid shit. Like he's a collector, so he's always buying shit. He'd be buying these huge collections and cherry picking all the stuff off it, not auctioning it off. And at this point, he already auctioned off all my toys. He already took that money, spent it in California at Disneyland. You know what I mean? So now I had to gamble that he was gonna figure out a way to pay me back, and he was always robbing Peter to pay Paul. He took a $50,000 loan from PayPal where they took 30% off the top of everything he sold at the store, and he was doing all these deals like all the time. That's his nature of the beast of running a business. Plus, then he got hit with the IRS. The IRS hit him from that pandemic money that he made, and he owed a whole bunch of money, and he had to take a loan out from PayPal, and that was for the IRS. He didn't tell me all this shit till later, until I basically sweated him hard because I was starting to get really frustrated. But later that summer, I brought it up again. Like, I'm not even kidding. This is like the third time I brought it up, and that's when he told me for the first time ever. He's like, man, I was like, dude, I got it. We got to finish this deal because I was getting to the point where I was, I was angry. I was like, dude, I just, let me bring you, he, at this point, he was like having me try to sell junk on eBay. He couldn't sell in his store or auction. I mean, literally broken toys, and I was boxing them up. He's like a Huck Finn in that way. Like, he'll figure out a way to make somebody else, he'll have people pay him to have the luxury of saying they got to paint his fence kind of thing. Like, it's just Tom Huck, you know what I mean? Huck Finn kind of thing. And I admire the guy for that, but I didn't want him to treat me like that because I was supposed to be his friend. Like, I was supposed to be his buddy. Like, I didn't think he was going to treat me just like some bozo that came in off the street to sell him toys. And that's ended up what kind of ended what happened. You know, I think he paid me $2,000. At one point, he did give me $2,000 cash, and then it was like apparent to me that he wasn't gonna pay me back. He wasn't even trying. He didn't bring it up anymore. I was the only one bringing it up, and it was always exasperation. And like after I'd fought with my wife about it, and like just, you know, I brought it up to him in person when he came out to do that big deal for the McDonald's toys. I was like, Brandon, man, this shit's causing me stress. Like, I'm under stress because I haven't been working. We're not making a lot of money. I could use some money. Like, I got to be able to tell my wife when you're going to pay me back. Like, you know, I'm going to bring you back all your shit. You just pay me back. Like, just give me, if you can do it, just pay me back. And that's when he said, oh man, let's not, you know, you're my best friend. And it was like those words, I wanted to hear him. Like, I already considered him my best friend, but, and I had said it a couple times, but you know, it was so, I'm just such a big fucking baby in that way, because it was like when you had a girlfriend and you were afraid to tell her that you loved her. When you did, you know, she waited a week to tell you she loved you back, and it was just what you were waiting for. And that's, honestly, when he told me, you're my best friend, I was like, oh, yeah, I got a best friend. I have a best friend. I'm so happy that I have a best friend. I let it go. It was not, you know, I was like, oh, okay. I don't have, you know, I'm not going to sweat you. Like, he's my best friend. And it was only at the moment that I started to lose hope that I told him, you know, it started eating our friendship. And that's when he told me, you're my best friend. So that basically bought him 6 more months before, like, that charm of a thing wore off. And let me tell you about Brandon. Brandon's a big guy. He's like 6'3". He reminds me a lot of my little brother. That's a whole other video, because I've lost my brother and my mom and dad the last couple of years. So it's just, you know, I not literally, they're not dead. I just have not talked to my mom, my dad, or my brother in a year and a half because toxic fucking environment, violence, just treating me like fucking shit. Another painful, long story that I don't want to get into, but Brandon reminded me a lot of my brother. My brother was, you know, stoner, big guy, bearded, always goofing off. Brandon's always goofing off. He's laughing, always smiling. He's a good heart. We were opposites in a lot of ways. I'm not laughing all the time. If I'm laughing, it's usually, I don't know, I'm a serious guy. That's just the way I am. My life has been hard, and I've taken things seriously. I wish I wasn't so serious. It's a turn off. I know, you know, charismatically people are more attracted to somebody that's like goofy and happy and fucking carefree. I'm not that kind of motherfucker, and I don't care. Me and Brandon were opposites in that way. He had this philosophy that nothing bad ever happens unless you manifest it. He was like, always believe that everything was a result of your own fucking focus and intention and all that. I'm sorry, but I had a girlfriend right before I met my wife. Her name is Rhea, and I got an epic fight with her because she was one of these new age woohoo motherfuckers that believe that shit too. And it kind of pisses me off because, you know, you gotta have balance. You can't have your head up in the clouds so far that you lose your fucking perspective of reality. A lot of these religious new agers are just as loony tunes as religious fucking Christians. You know, it's God's will. Give me a break. That's so, come on. Take some responsibility, people. And when the first time I came across this philosophy and seriously railed against it was like with that girl, Rhea, because she tried to tell me that everything was the result of what we karmically agreed to before we manifested and all this. I'm sorry, but at that time in Longmont, some guy had kidnapped a like 7-year-old girl, chopped her body into fucking pieces, put it in plastic bags, and then divided those bags up across the city and left them at like parks and lakes and shit. And I told her, I was like, so that little girl, she manifested that horrific into her life. Oh, well, yeah, you can't see the perspective, but maybe in a previous life. So maybe in a previous life, she was one of Hitler's henchmen. So that's why she fucking manifested a horrible karmic, you know, payback death of being murdered. I don't buy it. I'm sorry. You know, that's like saying all the fucking Jews in the Holocaust manifested being turned into lampshades because they just were shitty people in previous lives. No, that's bullshit. Some things just suck. Some things aren't fair. That's the world we live in. You can't say everything. If the world was truly balanced, human beings would have died off, the first 2,000 years they could speak. Because things aren't balanced. Things aren't fair. We're not like things just aren't fair. Not everything is a result of something. That's very arrogant to think that, I'm in total control of reality because everything that I manifest is what I believe and what I focus on. And yes, I acknowledge the bad, but I don't focus on. It's just, it bugs me because I got cancer. I got cancer in 2022. When all this was going on, I helped Brandon, I sold all this shit. I had nodular melanoma. It sucked. I had to go, it was horrific because they did a biopsy. Long story short, they said it was way worse than it was, and for like a month I was under the passing vehicles. I was under the thought, I was under the cloud that I thought I was going to be dead within 5 years because the person that did the math, because the biopsy came back that it was twice as big, the cancer they took out of my calf, than it was. And it wasn't until I got to Colorado and a new doctor that he had the slides sent from Florida, and he had his own people look at it, and they realized that my cancer was it was half as big as what the biopsy report initially said. They still had to take out lymph nodes, and I still had to do surgery, and I still had to have bigger margins taken out of my calf and all. It still sucked, but I didn't die. It was in my favor, at least, thank God. I mean, not that there is a God, but thank the universe, thank the tarot gods, thank whoever the fuck, thank whatever. Thank just fucking pragmatic reality. So I didn't, but the reason I bring the cancer up is that I needed a friend. At that point, I didn't have very many friends. I had a few I reached out to. My wife, incredibly fucking supportive during the whole thing, even though, like, at that point was the time that, it's a long story. I ended up, with my wife's permission, I'm not even going to bring it up in this thing. It doesn't matter. It was a lot of other external drama that happened. Just hoping to coincide with that moment. Long fucking video. I guess we'll see if I make it to the end of the story without. Brandon didn't acknowledge my cancer. He didn't care. He kind of just ignored it. Like, it was too serious of a subject for him. So he didn't want to fucking deal with it, And that sucked because I realized that there was limitations to our friendship at that point. There was definite there was adult things that he could not deal with. Somebody on my ass going over a bridge trying to pass trucks. Motherfuckers be on my ass. Let me speed up and pass this truck. Get over to a fucking better lane. So that made me realize that shit. Fuck you. Sorry, I had to flip off the guy right past. That made me realize that there was things about our friendship that our friendship wasn't as deep as I would have liked. I would have liked to have somebody to just, going through death fucking cancer. You want a friend you can cry on your shoulder. I had my wife. I'm not saying I didn't have friends, but Brandon just wanted to geek out with toys and talk about things, fart jokes and shit. 13-year-old mentality. So, and later on, I brought it up to him. It's like, dude, your philosophy blames me for my cancer. Like, it was my fucking fault that I got, nodular melanoma skin cancer in my calf. And, it almost spread to my blood and lymph nodes and all that shit. That was my fault. It was something I did. Because of sorry, it wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything. It was just bad luck, genetics, whatever the fuck you want to call it, life. So December came. I went out there to help him again. We're talking 2021 now. Right before Christmas, I went out there to. God, what was this? I'm trying to remember because so much shit had happened. Where did I stay that time? I'd say I went to visit Brandon so many times. It's very hard to figure it all out. Like, this point? Was he moved in with his father-in-law? I don't remember. A lot happened with me and Brandon. But I went out there and, that fall of 2021, I realized he wasn't going to pay me back. So I started taking stuff in trade because I was like, fuck, man, I got to get something. I don't want this debt. And I actually went out there in December and I was trying to just get the deal done. I just wanted to take the rest in trade, whatever cash he could give me, and be done with it. Because I didn't, it was eating me up. The fact that it waited so long to pay me back, I started to really, it started to bug me. And I found out when I went out there that he took another loan out for 50 grand. And he let it slip. It wasn't on purpose. So since he did this deal with me, where he owed me $8,000, and at one point he only owed me $6,000, and I took a bunch of stuff in trade, so he had it down to like $4 grand. He took a $50,000 loan out from PayPal. And I asked him, because we were at lunch, we went to pho, and we were eating pho outside. We still weren't eating indoors at that point. Everybody was eating outside. I asked him, I said, hey, he let it slip. He's like, oh, I got 50, I took another loan out from PayPal, blah, blah, blah. I was like, how much? 50 grand. I was like, what'd you do with it? Because I was like, what, dude? You got $50,000 and you couldn't give me back? You could pay me the $3 grand you've owed me for like almost a year? This was in December. And so I was in a store. I was trying to take it all in trade. He had this giant Transformer toy that would have sufficiently, it was a giant Transformer. I'm not even in Transformers. I went out there with the intention of being done with the deal. Like, that was my intention when I went out there. I didn't want it to go on any further. I didn't want to dwell on it. I didn't want to it's still been 2 fucking years. I'm still dwelling on it. It still eats me up. Because at this point, it's not about the deal. It's about the friendship that I lost. And how his fucking wife basically was at the root of it because she's a crazy bitch. He, at one point, side story, when I was helping him pack up his house, he came down and told me, he's like, look, I'm responsible for my wife's, she's crazy. She won't even let me come in the kitchen when I'm cooking a fucking meal because she's afraid something's going to fall off my shirt near the stove and will be poisoned. I'm like, dude, that's a little extreme. He can't even go in his own kitchen when his wife's cooking because she's afraid of fucking particles falling off his shirt. And he said, yeah, his wife is crazy because he used to be a drug dealer. Brandon got all his toys from dealing drugs. Like his initial, when I met him, he had a basement full of vintage 1980s, horror toys, Boglins, Mad Balls, prototype toys, all kinds of shit. Just buckets of fucking valuable He-Man, everything. Everything from the 80s he had in his basement, everything, times 2. And he had a whole room full of shit that he was buying, because he was buying collections, filling up to start his store. He hadn't started his store yet. But you know how it is. Every white guy that deals drugs is always inevitably tells you that they're in cahoots with the fucking cartel or some shit. Which I don't know if he was. I've heard that from at least 5 white guys that deal weed. They're like, yeah, man, I'm buddies with the cartel. I think it's just bragging rights with fucking white guys that deal drugs. One Mexican sells them a brick of weed. Suddenly they think they're in fucking bed with the cartel. So, yeah, he did shady shit. He did shady shit when I met him. But, he said that his wife was fucking broken mentally because of all the times that he used to have to go out and do these extremely dangerous drug deals in the middle of the night. He would drive and hustle, and then he wouldn't know if he was going to come home. And so his wife would fucking freak out for 20 hours while he was doing these deals, and she'd think he was dead. He put his wife through a lot of stress being a drug dealer. So that's why his wife was mentally broken. I'm sure that's part of it, but she's also just a crazy bitch. And I mean bitch in the true word that she's a fraud. She pretends to be woke and she pretends to care, but she's so vapid and so self-absorbed that there's no way she cares. It's all just about her and the business. And, both her and Brandon did not recognize that they had a true ally in me. I did at least 3 drops where I sold him toys, and a bunch of it I took in trade. And when you do trade, when you take a collection and you get trade for it, you're not getting your value. But I didn't do it because I was trying to profit. I did it because I loved Brandon. One of the trips I did, I painted a portrait of him and his wife, a huge portrait. Yeah, little things bug me, little things get me butthurt. He had a whole room of portraits people had done of him and his wife over the years. They all were different sizes, smallish stuff that he had hung up. I painted this huge portrait of him and his wife, hoping that, he would value it. He didn't care. He said he cared, but he didn't put it up in his living room with the other portraits. And that's my ego. You can't do things with expectations. I didn't charge him for it. I love Brandon and his wife and his kids, even if she was vapid and even if he was a child. I loved him and his kids. You know, Felix and Lexi, they were little tykes, and you know, shit. At one point, I gave his one kid like $300 worth of Pokemon cards just because I didn't care. I it wasn't about the shit. It was about like sharing our love of geek stuff and friendship. So that sucked. It sucked when it all went bad because, you know, he had me selling junk on eBay for him. I wasn't making any money for him. He was going to pay me $10 an hour under the table. It was taking up way too much time. It was a pain in the ass because people complained. Anyways, I got to where he still owed me after this whole Christmas thing. That Transformer toy he wouldn't give me. Like, he wouldn't give me one of the things that would have wiped out the whole trade because he's like, oh, I got to save that for Christmas because I'm going to make money at Christmas. I got to, you know, whatever. He didn't sell it during Christmas, so it didn't matter. He could have gave me that Transformer toy and everything would have been fine. We would have been done. But instead, that fucking debt carried over to a new year. And yeah, I made the mistake of letting it eat me up to the point where I got bitter and I got angry because it'd been like 2 years, you know, like that year. It'd been over a year that he owed me this money. And he had everything else was a higher priority. Buying other collections, his personal fucking collection, buying it, you know, everything. And I was supposed to be his best friend. That's what he told me. Oh, you're my best friend. But I wasn't. Money was his best friend. And that's the way shit works, you know. So I took some of the money out of the PayPal account that was in his name and I bought me something because he still owed me and I didn't tell him. I made that mistake. I started taking money from selling shit and paying the debt back myself with money that was his because I was like, fuck it. I'll just take the money that I'm earning for him, selling shit on my own dime, pay my $10 an hour, and I'm going to take a little extra. And I didn't actually take the money. I bought stuff on eBay because it was all hooked up to PayPal. But I didn't tell him. I should have. I ended up buying, and not enough to pay me back. He still owed me. Even with doing that, I bought a Lego thing. What else did I buy? Oh, I bought a Star Wars I bought Luke Skywalker vintage fucking, Return of the, I don't know, this black cloak, vintage with this cloak in his little, whatever. I bought some crap. Because I was like, man, I just want this debt to go away. He didn't understand, even though at least 3 times I reached out to him, 2 times over the phone and 1 time in person. I was like, dude, this debt is killing me. It's eating me up. It's causing me stress. I'm fixated on it. I can't get it out of my head. It's causing problems with me and my wife. We fight over it all the time. Can you please just pay me back or make a plan? And we made all these different plans. The plans kept changing every time. They had all these plans. We made like 5 different plans to pay me back, but none of them ever actually manifested. Sorry, I am feeling a little weird going through these mountains, talking so much. I'm glad to have this though, because it's distracting me from this. I don't like driving through the mountains very much. But yeah, in the end, we got an epic fight over it because I didn't tell him, and then his wife was like jumping on me, and my father was like, "Dude, I'm using the money to pay me back since you can't, since you're not gonna." And then it turned into a shit show. You know, it turned into, you know, he wanted, because he wanted at one point his wife to mediate, and I was like, I'm not gonna have your wife mediate a problem between me and you. Your wife has nothing to do with this deal. I made this wife with you. And then of course his wife reached out to my wife. You know, that shit goes. You know, and I really think if all of this had been sorted out in person, we'd still be friends. Because I know in my heart that people, you know, of course, once things got tense, he blocked me, man. He blocked me. He blocked me. He wouldn't take my calls. You know, I had to threaten his wife with a lawsuit to get the rest of the money, which he then, you know, at one point she's like, "Oh, I'll get it to you as soon as we can." I'm like, "Nah, that's the story. That's been the story for over a year. You got this much time, or I'm gonna just go onto Facebook and tell everybody what a rotten deal you did with me." And there was other things he did. Let's just say at one point he sent me something that wasn't allowed to be sent in the mail. And he put it in a toy and sent it to me, and it was not good shit. It was stuff that was way too strong. It fucked me up. It fucked me up to the point where I was hospitalized, and I told him specifically, I don't like that level of the shit, so send me the weak shit. But he didn't care because he's self-absorbed. He didn't tell his wife about that, and then that came up at the end of all. You know, me and my wife, I tell my wife everything. No, you don't. You didn't tell your wife about that. because I asked her. She didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. So, you know, there was lots of little things that he used to do and say, and, you know, he would confide in me with his wife, and then his wife would confide in me with about him. You know, his wife threw him under the train to me a bunch of times, and I never brought it up to him. Told me how she just distrusted him and how all this shit about, oh, you know, whatever. It's a long story. But when we finally had the final blowout, I told him what I thought of his wife. I was like, look, your wife's crazy, man. I'm not going to have her mediate shit between us because I don't like her. She treated me poorly. She wasn't nice to me. She put on a front. You guys didn't, you know, between the two of you didn't treat me as a guest in your home. You used me. And that's what it came down to, is I felt the end of the relationship. I was taken for granted. He took me for granted. He took somebody that had a good heart, which I do. I have a good heart, until it's fucking disregarded. And he just used me up and he threw me away. And even now, it's been a year since I talked to Brandon. It still almost daily tortures me because I miss him. I wish he was still my friend. I wish I could have just valued the shallowness of our friendship and realized it could go to a deep level, because both of us in a way weren't mature enough to fucking handle the responsibility of that kind of friendship. And that if I would have, and I take responsibility. I, towards the end, got so bitter that I started getting sneaky with the way I was going to get my money back. You know, $8,000. And the thing is, yeah, he owed me $8,000, but I gave him $30,000 worth of shit. And he took that $8,000 and made $40,000 with it, because he auctioned it off, and it became a bidding war on his Facebook thing between a bunch of fucking, you know, hyper fixated collectors that are competitive and toxic. And so, you know, a Venom, we used to laugh about his auctions afterwards. He'd connect with me right after an auction was done, and we'd talk for like 20 minutes while he was packing up the shit. And we'd joke about how dumb some of his fucking, oh God, Premier Bank, I'm not talking to you. How some of his buyers were, because he just sold him a Venom fucking Marvel Legends figure that there's 6 of on eBay for $30 that he just sold for $60, you know? Like, and that's the kind of shit he would do. He would maximize his value because he was so charismatic and such a fun guy that you just wanted to fucking buy anything that he sold. He's got the gift. I've met a few people in my life that have the gift of selling shit. He's got it. Very good at it. Talk a Eskimo into buying eggs kind of guy. And so, you know, like, he took all my shit multiple times, and it would make me a little bitter sometimes, because I was supposed to be his best friend, and he was just paying me a flat rate. And then other people that weren't his friend, he was making better deals with to take their shit. Like this guy Thaddeus overseas, he bought a huge collection of Boglins with him, and then made the deal with him to give him half of what he got in auction, 50%. It's like, damn, dude, if you'd have made that deal with me, I would have made way more money than what the fuck you gave me. But, you know, that's because that guy wasn't his friend and stuck to his guns on what he wanted to get. I didn't. I was trying to help Brandon. I wasn't trying to maximize profit on my shit. I was trying to help him with his business. So it hurts. It still fucking hurts, because he used me, and that's the bottom line. He used me. He said I was his friend. I wasn't. I mean, I was in a superficial way. He talked to me. He talked to me every day during the pandemic. We laughed. We joked. We cried. You know, we did all kinds of shit. But when, you know, serious stuff like cancer came up, or like the $8,000 that he had owed me for 6 months came up, he just shined me on. He didn't want to deal with it. And yeah, I didn't know the whole story until it all came out at the end, that he was borrowing Peter to pay for Paul. He said he was embarrassed. He didn't want to tell me, because I asked him when he told me in December, what'd you do with the $50,000? And he goes, I don't know. And I'm like, bullshit. That's when I started to, in my mind, the real bitterness started percolating in my heart, because I was like, there's no fucking way you got $50,000 and don't know what you did with it, motherfucker. I mean, somebody don't give me $100 without me not knowing what I did with it. So don't lie to me. He just tried to laugh and like, I don't know, I just spent it. You know, and it pissed me off, because yeah, if I was a priority, I don't care. And it came out later. I asked him, because I railed against him on that. I was like, dude, that was when the timing is that you could have paid me off, and it was exactly when I was stressed over money, when he got the second $50,000 from PayPal. I was like, dude, you could have alleviated a lot of stress and a lot of fucking bullshit from my life if you cared about me as a friend and just paid me the $3,000 cash. My computer had broken. There was all this little stuff that was starting to fuck with me with money. 4 years after, 3 years of not working in Kansas, living off my wife's fucking wages, started to eat at me. I used to make money tattooing. I don't anymore, so whatever. So yeah, I the end of our relationship, it got all whacked out, and you know, I was such a best friend of his that he blocked, deleted, forgot. And all I'm left with is the fucking memories of being used. You know, he's still, it's hilarious because I helped his collection so much. Every time he puts a fucking thing up, I see something in the background that used to be mine hanging on his wall. A Boglin fucking frame or something that Tim Clark made a one-off of that I fucking bought. Like, I gave him stuff too, and that, man, I gave him stuff that in the deal that wasn't meant to be auctioned off, and I told him, I was like, I made this is for you, this is a gift, don't auction it off, and he did. And I don't know if it's just because he was such a stoner that his brain didn't listen or hear, and I almost don't blame him. Every stoner I know has the same deal. They just don't even, hardcore stone, people that smoke a lot of fucking weed, they're just out of it. They're out of touch. I smoke weed, I like weed, but I smoke the weed, I go into the weed shops, I'm like, give me something 12% THC or lower. I don't want anything above 15% because it fucks me up. I just want enough to take the herniated disc in my neck, back, my arthritis in my chest, my fucking knee problems, my tennis elbow, my fucking, you know what I mean? All that shit to be, not even disappear, just numb it a little bit, just make it a background noise. I want that kind of weed. I don't want to be so fucking high that my chest aches and I feel like I'm, you know, meeting God in my soul during a dream walk on The Simpsons. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the kind of high I desire anymore. I don't actually enjoy being high. I don't drink. I like I said, I smoke a little bit of weed, but even that bothers me now. I'm pretty much straight edge, unless I can get a hold of some like 10%, 12% THC, and then I'll smoke it very little. One hit, quit kind of guy. Because I don't like being paranoid. Weed makes me a little paranoid when I'm super stoned. See, I'm going on 47 minutes. But I had to talk about this because it's been over a year and I still miss him. It's like with my family. I'm talking to them for a year and a half and I still miss him. I still weep once a week about my whole fucking brother and how he tried to kill me the last time I saw him, and I don't even know what to fucking do with this shit. But yeah, like, I wish I could go back in time and tell myself, hey, this is how you're gonna feel. That friendship you had, your best friend, that you let money, even if he was a dumbass and couldn't realize that the money was stupid and the deal was dumb. If I could go back in time, I'd go back in time and go, look, don't sell him anything, just be his friend. Just collect shit with him and don't get involved in his business. Just be his buddy. And that would be the best thing ever, because once you cross the lines of business and friendship, it's gonna fuck it up. And it did. And it still eats me up because I miss Brandon. As much as he fucked up too. Like, he fucked up because he lied to me. And that's the thing, that's where you cross the line. When I went out there to see him and he said, oh, I got the $50,000 in PayPal, and I asked him, what'd you do with it? He goes, oh, I don't know. And then later on, he admitted to me on the phone, oh, I know what he did with it, but I was embarrassed. I owed the IRS money, and I didn't want to tell you that I'm actually, you know, got all this debt going on. I got all this shit going on. I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul. The PayPal's taking 30% of everything I make off the fucking auctions and out of my business right off the bat. You know, I got 6 storage units. I got, you know, the kids and the wife and the fucking business and all this, you know, the drugs and all. And I mean, dude's got an ounce a week habit kind of thing. You know, like, he lied to me though. And at that point, that's when my brain, I just have, there's certain lines that once people cross with me, there's no going back. Like, I thought to myself, well, if he'll lie to me about that, he'll lie to me about anything. And it made me realize, you know what? His business and his collection and his fucking shit are always going to be more important than you, man. And as much as he says, oh, you're a silent partner and you're my best friend and yeah, you've really helped me out, I love you and all, it's all bullshit. I mean, he used to tell me, every call, man, I love you, bro. I need love, man. I'm human. I wanted love. I loved it back too. And it hurts still because I can't believe that both of us let this eat us up. And I know in the end he used me. I didn't attack his wife. I didn't say anything untrue to him about his wife. I mean, if you don't let somebody walk in your kitchen and stand 6 feet from the stove while you're cooking up a fucking burrito for breakfast, you got mental issues. I got mental issues. I had mental issues before the pandemic, so all these motherfuckers now are like, oh, mental health. Welcome to the club, bitches. I've had mental issues since I was 12 years old. I am mental. I'm not going to deny it anymore. I was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic when I was younger, and they properly diagnosed me 7 years ago with borderline personality disorder and PTSD from the ample amount of physical, mental, sexual, and spiritual torture that was heaped upon me in buckets and buckets full when I was a child. It didn't take me until I was in my 30s before I was even able to acknowledge the fact that my childhood was fucked up, because I didn't have any sort of like, way to compare it, or I didn't have any perspective. All I knew was mental illness. It wasn't until I met my wife and had normal people in my life that I recognized how crazy my childhood was. So yeah, I recognize his wife for what she was. She's mentally ill. And so is he. And so is almost everybody. And I told him that she's pretty crazy, man. Like, you guys are both kind of crazy, and I'm crazy too. And I'm not very tactful once I get angry. I wish I was more tactful. I'm working on it. But that's what in the end made him throw me away, is that I was honest to him about his wife. And I wasn't tactful about it. I was like, no, I'm not going to let your crazy wife mediate a problem between me and you. She's interfered. She drugged my wife into it, which I specifically told him, don't bring my wife into our business. Don't bring my wife into our fucking bullshit. Don't bring your wife into it. This is between me and you. And he wanted to bring his wife into it. And he thought that she would be able to fix it. And no, I refused. I told him at one point, I was like, I'd rather have your fucking 8-year-old kid, Felix, mediate between me and you than your crazy wife. And yeah, I was pissed, so I wasn't nice. So, here I am a year later, still bemoaning, still fucking sad, still hurt. Yeah, he paid me back finally, but it wasn't without blackmail. It wasn't without me like, fuck, dude, you better pay me back, or I'm gonna go ape shit online and, tell everybody how you bought a huge, $30,000 collection from me, told me you'd pay me back $8,000 in a couple months, and shine me on for a fucking year. And then I tried to tell him, I was like, look, most deals, if you're doing a deal for cash, you get less. But if you do a deal for trade, you get more. Like, that's common knowledge. Like, you should always know that if you do a deal. And like, he wasn't going to give me more in trade, so I did a deal with him where I sold a bunch of shit. He said he'd give me cash, and then he gave me trade. And I felt gypped. Fairly enough, I felt like, hey, I waited all this time, you gave me a little bit of cash, now I'm on your auctions paying exorbitant amounts in trade for shit that I should have got for like trade value and some. But it didn't matter. All of it doesn't matter now, because honestly, I love Brandon so much, and I still have a soft spot for my heart. I'd do it again. If he called me up tomorrow and said, hey man, I'll be your friend again, and I'll put all this behind us, just pack up all your toys and give them to me, and I'll give you nothing for them, I'd be like, you know what? It's worth it. It's worth it, man, because I miss your friendship so much. And I know I can't take the toys to the grave, but my sadness I'm going to take to the grave for Brandon. For the rest of my fucking life, I'm going to regret doing that fucking deal. I'm going to regret I'm just going to regret. I don't want to. I don't want to fucking regret Brandon. But I am, because he ain't going to talk to me no more. I fantasize about weird shit like, well, what can I do to make him love me again, make him be my friend again? He was hunting down Series 3 Madball prototypes. You can't buy this kind of shit, the shit that he collects. Like, you have to go get it from people that got it from the people that created it at the factories. There's like 2 or 3 prototypes he was missing from his Series 3 Madball. I mean, I tattooed Brandon for free. I did all kinds of shit. I tattooed a fucking lock lips, a Madball this fucking big. I'm not even exaggerating. Bigger than my fucking head on his calf, because he's a big guy. It was probably the biggest single tattoo I did. I only got 1 session in it. I never got to finish it. Or I got 2 sessions in. I think I only got 1. Maybe I got 2. I don't remember. It's hard to keep track of all the tattoos I've done and not done. But I fantasize about, well, maybe I could hunt down the guy that's got those 2 prototypes he wants, and maybe I could, Mission Impossible, break in his house and steal those 2 prototypes. And that'd be the one thing that Brandon would fucking love me for but he wouldn't. Or maybe he would. I don't know. That's just a fantasy. The point is I still miss him. I still love him. Not his wife. I never really liked his wife because she was fake. She was fake as a fucking $3 bill. And she was vapid. She acted like she was so wise and woke, but you scrape that grease off the surface of the engine, you realize there's a ton of leaks. And that's exactly what she was. She was a facade, you know? And the gnarly nation, and now, you know, whenever anybody says, oh, you're part of the family, I was one of the original founding members of the gnarly family. I was his best friend. None of that meant nothing, because in the end, all that mattered was fucking money to both of us. And not really so much to me. Like, I wanted the debt to end. The money did matter, but what ate me up in the end was that he lied to me about the fucking money he got. That's the thing that I was like, dude, if I was your friend and you cared about me, all the shit we've been through, you're just gonna fucking lie to me about a $50,000 fucking PayPal loan that you could have easily at that point paid me. I think it was $3 or $4 grand he owed me at that point. I don't remember. The deal changed like literally a dozen times. I was always like getting stressed, and he'd come up with a new solution to pay me back. And it never worked. I never got my money back. So all these solutions, all these ideas, all these schemes never came back. And what we should have done is just stuck to the original deal. He should have just stacked up the shit, but he always had something come up that was more important than me. So yeah, in the end, I still am saddened by all of it. I still like Brandon. I don't know, whatever. I don't know how he feels about me. I'm sure he just is so fucking stoned, puts me in that compartmentalizes me to past, don't look back kind of thing, because he's had a fucked up life too. Nobody that's 40 years old that fixates on 12-year-old toys their whole life for everything doesn't have an issue with their father. You know, his dad died before he was an adult. His mom, he kind of had a typical trailer trash, white trash upbringing of, you know, moving around a lot. I can relate. His wife, though, you know, they ended up moving in with his wife's dad after all the thing fell apart. Now he does his auctions out of his father-in-law's house, which he didn't want to do, and that was his fear, and it happened anyways. But whatever. The deal's done. Doesn't fucking matter. I guess I'm just using this YouTube opportunity of this hour-long video to vent, and because I haven't had a therapist for like 3 years, I need to talk about shit. Man, I wish I could fix it. I wish I could stop torturing myself. I've written about it like 10 times. I'm not trying to write like Brandon fucked me over. We both fucked each other over this deal. I mean, he made out financially off me. I can show you the pictures, like, and he knows. There's no fucking way in his heart and soul that Brandon cannot say that he profited off of my friendship. He profited off of meeting me by tens of thousands of dollars, and I am not exaggerating. I helped his business get through the first couple of years personally. I sold him some of the biggest collections he ever bought out of a personal collection, which came from me. And I didn't do it because I was trying to profit. I did it because I loved him and I believed in him, and I thought there was some, it wasn't totally altruistic. I thought I was going to be part of the family. I thought I was going to be acknowledged. I thought I was going to be brought in. He kept saying, oh man, I'm going to get famous, and you're going to be my fucking roadie, and we're going to go on road trips together, and you're my best friend, and once I get famous, we're both going to be famous. Whatever, I wasn't so much concerned about the fame as I just loved him, and I loved his family, and I just wanted to do what I could to help. In the end, bitterness ate at me, and I was sneaky with the PayPal account. I literally bought 2 things. I bought a Lego set and a fucking Jedi, a vintage Jedi that was like $40. At that point, I felt entitled to it. I felt like, you owe me, man, and you're never going to pay me back, so I got to do what I got to do to get my money. I should have just been upfront. I should have been sneaky about it. And I knew when I did it. I knew when I pulled the trigger. The thing started to fucking spiral in my brain. Like, I can't even tell you. Like, I knew I was fucking up when I did it, but I couldn't stop. Like, I didn't want to do it, but, like, I was afraid. That's why I went out there at Christmas. I told my wife, I was like, man, this shit is eating me up. Let me just get all this shit in trade. I went out there with intention just to get the rest in trade so that I could put it in behind me. So I can put it behind me. So I can say, oh, that deal's done. I don't have to think about it anymore. I don't want to think about it anymore. Jesus loves you. That's what the sign says. Fuck you, Jesus. You don't love me. Love your fucking dead cross self. You fucking... If you love me, I hate those signs. They're all over Kansas, too. I'm anti-religion. But it got me to where I just spiraled, I got to where I was like, fuck, I I came back and he still owed me like a little under $2,000. I couldn't take it all in trade. I took a bunch in trade. He gave me a statue, a giant vampire statue that he took. I took $2,000 off the fucking $2,000 off the debt for this giant vampire statue, off the $8,000 or $10,000 that he owed me. And then I found it online for like $600 because he told me it was all this rare. And I trust him. There's plenty of stuff I bought from him on auction that when I got it, I was like, damn, this is fucked up. This is broken. This is scratched. But I didn't care because I was trying to help him. You know, he did deals with me, and then he'd forget that he did a deal with me. Like at one point, he owed me a previous deal before these two giant deals. He owed me like $100, and he'd been. I should have realized from that deal that's what he was going to do, was just shine me forever. He owed me this $100 for a long time, and I was like, dude, okay. And then something came up on his site that I wanted. It was acrobatic boggling, and there was a mad ball that he was supposed to send me. I think it was actually, it might have been lock lips. It might have been, I don't know, it doesn't matter. It was a mad ball. Both of them, I was like, dude, if you send me those two, I'll write off the $100. And he's like, deal. He never did, because the new deal came, and I guess he just thought that I didn't care. But there was little things like that. It's like, man, I don't, you know, sure, you may have just forgot, but when somebody forgets that kind of stuff, it makes me feel unimportant, because I don't know, it doesn't matter. I guess this whole video is just stupid because I'm still very sad about my friendship with Brandon, and that's the reason I made this video, is that the last day I've just been torturing myself with Brandon, because somehow, I don't know what the fuck, how this happened, but Grassroots, every time they get a new product, I get a link, I get something sent from Grassroots that me and him are tagged in, even though he's blocked me on Facebook, he's blocked me on everything, but yet, once a fucking month, I get a little link from Grassroots company hats that has his picture on it, a link with me and him saying, oh, check out our new product, and it's from him. It says from Brandon, so I don't know if it's just some automatic sharing thing he's doing to get free fucking points, I don't know. But I have to look at his mug, and yeah, we had so much in common that we collected all the weird same shit. We both had a very bombastic way of dressing and colorful, and we were goofy guys. That's what I miss most about it, is I finally found a human being that shared some of the things in common with me that make me feel like a freak, you know? It made me feel human. It made me feel loved. Yeah, my wife loves me. Thank God I have one person in my life that sees me and values me. But I have zero in common with my wife. Like, that's not true. I have like 20% in common with my wife. Where Brandon, I have like a lot more in common. And I just miss him. I miss him so much. I wish he was still my friend. I never had anybody that called me almost every day. I never had anybody that really, really cared about me like that. You know, they just gave me their time. I don't care about the money, man. I cared about the time that I wanted. I wish I could go back and tell myself, man, you're gonna be so fucking sad if you do this. If you fucking buy those stupid, and I knew when I bought that one leg, I was like, I'm doing something that's gonna ruin it. But I can't stop because I'm so angry. And it's gonna fucking ruin it. But I did it anyways. And I feel so stupid because I knew what I was doing, but I was so angry that he lied to me. And sometimes, man, the anger just overwhelms the sadness, and I'll pay with sadness later, but right now I'm gonna feed the anger. And that's what I did, because I was so angry that he lied to me. And there was just little things that he knows now, because at the end I let him have it, man. I let him have it. We fought a couple times on the phone, and I was like, dude, you know, how many times am I supposed to watch you buy a bunch of shit, knowing in the back of my mind that you owe me $4,000? How many times are you gonna brag about you buying this, that, and the other, going to Disneyland and doing all this shit when you owe me money? Like, yeah, I understand you got a life, you got kids, you got you know, but you could have, I mean, he could have easily paid me back if he would have made me a priority, and we'd still be friends. Instead, he let it carry on for over a year, and then he lied to me about the money that he did get from PayPal, and I made the mistake of letting it eat me up. And that's it. That's the story. That's the crux of it. And I know in my heart, Brandon's not a bad guy. His wife, on the other hand, I think she's an evil, psychopathic bitch, and I still hate her because she's fake. She pretended to care about me and didn't care at all. I was just a pawn to her. She just used me because that's what she does. That's what that's what kind of person she is. So, and I don't know. I'm just bitter. She's probably, I give her more credit than she's worth. She's probably not that fucking evil. It just felt that way towards me. For some reason, she took a disliking to me on that trip when I went out there to help her, and I could just feel it. She emanated hate towards me that whole time I was there, and I was just there to help. I busted my ass, helped pack up a whole fucking house full of shit. Fuck this, man. Never mind, I ain't getting over it. So that's my cry session. That's the gnarly toy box fucking video. I've wanted to do this for a while. I just haven't been in a space to do it. And I wish those movies where you could go and erase memories, I wish those were real. Because I have so many painful memories now that and I'm so much I'm a mental masochist. I mentally just torture myself whenever I've spent too much time alone. And I, unfortunately, this whole last summer, I spent a lot of time alone. Not because I wanted to, but because the business I was trying to fucking start fell apart. That's a whole other story. But, yeah, I just almost, it's like I have a routine. In the morning, I torture myself with Brandon, and at night I torture myself with my family, and then I revisit the Brandon torture, and then I oftentimes go back and watch, I internet watch his videos, because he used to be my friend, and I torture myself with him. Why? Because I still miss him. Because I desperately wanted a friend like him my whole life, and thought I actually found one. Because he said, "You're my best friend," and I believed it. If I was his best friend, why did he just throw me away like a moldy tangerine? Why? Because the friendship wasn't that deep. Because the friendship couldn't withstand a little bit of truth. Because the friendship couldn't withstand $2,000 worth of debt in the end that you had to lie about. Because paying the IRS is more important than paying me, I guess. I don't know. I can't get inside his head. But I guess I'm going to stop this video because I don't want to weep anymore. It's a little cathartic just to get it off my chest. But I'm going to put this up on Facebook. I'm going to call it the gnarly toy box or some shit. Let's see if he watches it. It's the truth from my perspective. Yeah, I admit I fucked up at the end. I took money out of the PayPal account that was in his name that I set up. I set up the PayPal, I set up the eBay, I set up all this shit for him. And I spent like $300 on PayPal that was in his account, and I should have fucking briefed him on it first, which if I would have, he wouldn't have cared. But the fact that I didn't was when I started to cross the line and be sneaky, because I was angry. And that's where I fucked up. I also fucked up by holding on to the bitterness of him not paying me back after that Christmas visit. After I let the lie eat me up, instead of me being adult about it, go, it doesn't matter. I value my friendship with Brandon more than the remaining $1,200, or whatever it was. I value my friendship with him more than that, so I'm just gonna let it go. If he ever pays me back, great. If he doesn't, great. I couldn't. There's something about me that just, if somebody burns me or owes me, I fixate on it. I feel like it's just not right. I don't like to be burned. I've been burned too many fucking times in my life. So when somebody rips me off, man, that brings out the worst in me. It makes me want to fucking become vindictive and mean and evil and just, ugh. And I don't like that about me. Like I said, I don't care about the stuff in the end. I don't. It doesn't matter. It's just junk. It's all replaceable, right? Well, except for that fucking Harry Wart original vintage goddamn, that he took mine because it actually had the Harry Wart in the puppet. That's part of his permanent collection. But whatever. So in the end, Brandon made out from our friendship. He got a bunch of cool shit out of my personal collection. He made tens of thousands of dollars, borrowed money, took stuff, and then just block, delete. Because that's the new way into things nowadays. You don't even have to fucking get within kicking distance of a best friend if you tell them to go fuck themselves. And yeah, I tried to work it out with him, but we had epic fights. It doesn't matter. So I guess that's just all I wanted to say. My sadness permeates me now. I'm trying to rebuild. I'm taking this road trip from Kansas to Portland because I'm trying to let go of some of the past. There's part of me that just wants to revisit the pain of my family. I miss them. I miss them a lot, but they're shitty people. The last time I saw my brother, he tried to beat the shit out of me. He was gonna turn my face to mush for no other reason than trying to encourage my mother to get vaccinated because I was worried about my 7-year-old mother. The last time I saw my parents, the second thing they said to me was, you don't have to, just because you married a fat wife, just because you married a fat woman doesn't mean you have to be fat. And I didn't even say anything. It was literally the second thing they said to me was just, let me shit on you, let me shit on your wife, and then let me shit on you. And they're mean people. My parents are homophobic. They're, mildly racist, sometimes overtly racist. They're mean people. Love is not unconditional. It's very, very conditional in my family. So I can't hold on to this pain anymore. And as much as it sucks, I still miss them, and I still want to see them. I still wonder what they're up to. I've cut them off completely out of my life. I don't talk to them anymore. My mom wrote me a letter after a year and was like, you're shitty and I don't deserve this. You're an asshole. And I kept it because they moved and it's got their address just in case. But I want to burn it. I've thought about burning it because she's shitty. I'm not an asshole. I was 15 years old when you kicked me out, Mom. I was not an adult. I didn't. Your definition of love is not a normal human being's definition of love. And so that's why I'm taking this road trip. I'm trying to let go of some of the past. I'm trying to restart, just reset. And it's hard because I know for the rest of my life I'm going to miss my buddy Brandon. And I'm going to wish that I would have never fucking done that deal. For 2 reasons. First, I lost my friend Brandon. Second, I lost an epic boggin collection. That, yeah, he did pay me for that boggin collection. But holy shit. I had one of the coolest boggin collections in the world. Whatever. I mean, I could recollect it, I guess, if I wanted to, but I don't. I mean, I bought a few of them back, but I'm never going to get back what I sold because some of that shit you can't find anymore. And if you do, it's 10 times what I bought it for back when I was collecting it, so it doesn't matter. I don't value it that much anymore. So, I have regrets. I'm not somebody that walks around going, no regrets, I have no regrets. I got lots of fucking regrets. My life, that's almost like the theme of my life in a lot of ways, is regret. I'm not gonna lie. So, shed a few tears. Anyways, Pirate Wizard Dragon. I'll try to do a better, more positive update down the road here on this trip. I just had to talk about Brandon and the Gnarly Nation and the Gnarly Toy Box. How everything went south, because of money. I felt used. I still do. I still don't understand that, and people don't understand that what he does is a show. It's like the greatest showman on earth or something, because I got to see behind the scenes. I spent a lot of time with Brandon behind the scenes and after the auctions, and heard him talk shit about all his fucking favorite clients and make fun of people, him and his wife, and talk about how stupid they were for buying the shit. So I know the real story of Brandon and his wife, and they're just money-hungry, self-serving, self-centered, tunnel vision people. All they care about, even his own kid at one point, I was like, dude, your kid's 8 years old and he doesn't know basic math. Like, I was trying to play Pokemon with him because he knew the value of every card, but he didn't know how to play Pokemon, and he didn't know how to do the math to do Pokemon. And it's like, man, instead of doing all this online shit, why don't you teach your kids some basic skills? And he does love his kids. I'm not going to knock Brandon with his kids. Like, he really does love his kids, but he's a child, and his wife's a child. They're both, all these children raising children. It makes the children fucking sometimes neglected in basic things. Like, sure, his kid knows the value of fucking the Wonderloaf He-Man toy, but he doesn't know what 7 times 3 equals. And I told him this. I told him because I was like, your kid doesn't know how to do basic math, man, to do this Pokemon stuff. He doesn't know fractions, and he doesn't know multiplication. Which is you need just basic math to play Pokemon. It's not even hard math. So that, whatever. It's not my life. I don't have kids for that reason. I don't want kids. It's a lot of responsibility. And bring kids into the world to watch it get nuked? No thanks. Not my thing. I'm 50 miles from Butte. Actually, it's Butte. So I'm gonna let you go. If you made it this long, please comment. I just want, if anybody made it this long in the video, put Snaggletooth in the comments, and that way I know you actually made it to the end. Tell me what you think about this. I know it's just my own boo-hoo fucking thing, and I know a lot of you are just like gonna Denny Sleary it and just slap yourself in the fucking face and get over it, motherfucker. That's what I wish I could do. I wish I could just, and some days I can, but other days I torture myself with the whole Brandon episode of my life. I gave Brandon years of my life of fixating. I cared more about his shit and his problems and his drama than my own. And when I tried to bring up my drama to him, he didn't have room for it, and it's hard because he had too much other shit going on. He had all these deals, business, his wife, his drug habit, his kids, you know, sometimes in that order, sometimes not. And I still miss him. And yeah, he did lie to me, but I whatever, people lie. And yeah, so Snaggletooth, Pirate Wizard Dragon, check it out. Doing a short whatever update on the whole gnarly toybox nation bullshit. And I hope he does watch this. And you want to come after me for slander or whatever, I don't give a fuck, because what I have said is truth in my perspective, and my wife will also contest to it too. She was there for the whole thing. She saw you use me. She saw you fucking take me for granted. She saw how many times I drove out to Colorado to bring you buckets of toys. She saw the painting, giant fucking painting I did for free of you and your wife that you know, whatever. She saw the shit that I made for you. She saw all the stuff I did for you, man. She didn't deserve all the shit that you put her through. I mean, my wife suffered because of this deal too, and you didn't care. Nobody cared about this deal except for me in the end. And it ate me up. So, but that's the way it goes. So my big advice from this is don't do any kind of deal with somebody that you care about that's more than what you can lose. Because if you lose it and the deal is so weighty that it costs you your friendship, that was the true cost of the deal. That's what I did the deal for. It wasn't for the $8,000 cash. It was for, here, I'm going to sell you all my collection of the 1/6 scale figures and all this nice shit. Literally $30,000 worth of toys. I'm going to give you this shit, and in the end, I'm going to get heartbreak. I'm going to lose you as a friend. I'm going to have to hound you for over a year. I'm going to get a bunch of junk I didn't want, and I'm going to get $2,000 cash. Because that's all I got from him in cash was $2,000. And, you know, you're going to end up with a bunch of shit, and I'm going to end up with heartbreak and a sad story. And that's what I got from it. And it breaks my heart. And it made me decide never to do, I don't like to do deals at all anymore. I used to be a wheeler dealer, but not with my own shit. I fucking hate it. I fucking hate doing deals because, you know, both parties should come away happy, and that's not what happened with this deal. He walked away, we both walked away fucked. You know, I mean, I felt more fucked in the end than he did, because at least he got the shit. He got to go to Disneyland with my money. He took, every time I did a giant deal with him, he took a vacation. Like, he would auction off my shit. The first time I did it, he took his family out to this, rented a private cabin up in the mountains of Colorado. I did a huge deal with him before this deal, where I brought him a whole bunch of shit. And literally, you know, like less than a month later, he's like, oh, I got to take a break. He took his family up. They booked a cabin for a week. And yeah, part of me was jealous, man. It's a pandemic. You know, it was during the pandemic. He took my shit, auctioned it off, and then went on vacation. I was like, damn, dude. Whatever. It's your you can do whatever you want. It's your money. But it still sucked. It still sucked to watch, I don't know, just bitter, I guess. So anyways, Snaggletooth ×2. I'm trying to heal. I really am. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to fucking 46 years old. I'm trying to breathe life into the dying dreams I've had of my youth. I've gotten close a few times, so close. This last summer I got so fucking close I could almost taste it. But I'll do another video on that, because that was a heartbreak too this last summer. This year sucked. I lost my best friend. It's been the year of just dreams falling apart over and over and over, trying and not getting anywhere, no traction. Stuck in fucking buttfuck Kansas, as I call it. I call it Afghanistan. Instead of Kansas, I call it Afghanistan. But we're planning to move, hopefully in a year. My wife gets her master's degree in higher education. We're going to get the fuck out of there, I hope. That's if the Russians don't nuke the Ukrainians, whatever, I don't know, who the fuck knows. But, peace out. Pirate Wizard Dragon. Bye.